All right, good morning, everybody. It's like to be here. Are you guys awake? I know it's early. Yeah. Make some noise if you're up right now. Wow. That was really good if this was Delaware. But this is Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C., make some noise. Oh. There we go. You know, we'd like to give a big shout out to Creative Mornings here in D.C. when they asked us to come out and talk about collaboration. We were really psyched. There's probably no better topic to talk about than collaboration, I guess, other than fried chicken and kimchi, right, Brandon?
Go ahead and laugh. You can laugh.
Okay.
It's cool. It's fine. It's cool. It's all good.
It didn't go over as well as we thought we had rehearsed. Okay, but seriously, we just feel really blessed to be here. We've been fortunate enough to work with so many amazing artists over the years, musicians, restaurateurs, chefs, performance artists, companies, brands, government organizations from all over, not just here in DC. So No Kings Collective, who are we? What do we do? Two things. We're a design build studio, and we're also an events production company. So what does design build mean? What that means is that we do large-scale installations, murals, hand-painted signage and graphics, and also various forms of commercial art and design. I can explain that to you for the next few hours, and Brandon and I decided that it'd be better to show you guys.
Because it's a presentation.
Because it's a presentation. This is a piece that we created for Becky's Fund annual fundraiser, Walk This Way. It was at the Italian Embassy. It was a sculpture of a lion that was made out of recycled pallet wood that stood about 14 feet tall and 20 feet long. Did it fit you all? Yeah, 20. About 20 feet long, and that's Brandon, as you can see on the ladder. This is a centerpiece that we did for 1776, their tech startup located here in Washington, D.C. This was for their Challenge Cup Festival, in which they did a competition in 32 cities for tech startups, and they flew them all out here to compete, and we crafted this for them.
This is a poster we actually did with a project that Swatch from DC was doing out, and it's kind of funny. You know, part of 1776 branding is you know, old school Americana, and you know, but then also, you know, modernizing it with it being a tech startup. And so one of the things we did was we actually took a more modern, like 1950s boxing poster, but we kind of paired it with a little bit of old school Americana. If anyone knows the famous duel between Aaron Burr and Alexander Hamilton, and to me it's kind of funny because you know, back in the day they were doing bouts the same way. The only difference is that someone had to die at the end. So you know, on the right hand side we have Alexander the Lion, which is actually his nickname. The Widowmaker is actually not Aaron Burr's nickname, but I just thought it'd be funny. So. But the actual location, we actually did our best to kind of hybridize something that's just, you know, semi-real.
This is a chalk mural that we did for General Assembly here in Washington, D.C. Doing a mural out of chalk is a pain in the ass. We don't recommend you doing it. Anybody here from General Assembly? Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
But it still looks good. That's what it still looks like, so.
So this is pretty interesting. This is actually a restaurant called Steak and Ice that was on 8th Street. I wish I had a better picture, but it's really hard to get an understanding of the ceiling. So it was a 40-foot long ceiling, and we actually did a graffiti piece down the center of it. And we actually worked with another writer in DC named Edwin Marino. And you know, it was interesting because if you guys know cheesesteak spots in Philadelphia, you know, not all of them are actual restaurants. They're kind of walk-ups. You know, they could just be on the street. So they kind of wanted to exude the feel that the ceiling could have been there and then the restaurant was built around it. So that was kind of fun. Oh, sorry.
And that's just another shot of the ceiling. This is a mural that we did for Crystal City. It's on Crystal Drive. This location is used for a number of activities that they do, 5K runs, food truck days, farmers markets, etc. So this is a building that they were actually going to demolish, and they wanted us to beautify the space. So it's a 215-foot long mural. It's so long that we couldn't actually get it in one shot. And this was especially fun for us because we were allowed to work with 3 artists that we had been working with for years, Jazzy Rock, Kelly Tolles, and Nia Kanye. And this is another section of the wall which Kelly Tolles did his piece.
So this is actually at 9th and N. This is not really super artistic, but it's just an example of some of the commercial signage. And on the right-hand side is actually a local pizzeria called Ann Pizza. And the upper slide is actually about 24 feet up. It's their Twitter handle, if you ever, I don't even know if you looked up. But I'd need a whole nother presentation to explain that project. And that's their distinctive ampersand when you actually just walk in the restaurant. That's mine, I'm just claiming.
Yeah, I'm gonna give this to Brandon.
So this is, we did this out in Eden, Utah. I don't know if everyone can see this, but we did this out in Eden, Utah, and it's a large moose. So we were actually working with an event out in Utah. We were out there for about a month building for a 3-day event, go figure. And we were actually working with the food and beverage department there, who were bringing out pretty renowned chefs. And their idea was not really to bring what they were already known for, but bring like a new pop-up concept. So we actually worked with the chefs to create just whole new concepts or whole new centerpieces, to be in the restaurant. And one of the guys was a pastry chef, so I kind of maybe took a little more extreme view on the idea of a chocolate mousse, making up a literal mousse. And if anyone knows Coming to America, this is sexual chocolate.
All right. The secondary aspect of our company, events, as we talked about earlier. Even though the breadwinner in our company is the design build work, I think what we're most known for are the events because they're the most visible. Over the years, Brandon and I have done 11 plus pop-up art exhibitions, which the DNA is comprised of about 70% fine art, and the other 30% is a jumble of food, different types of cultural programming, music, you name it. We always find different acts that like to participate in our pop-ups. But we chose this one. I don't know if how often you guys go to H Street, but this was a project that we did in 2012 called Submerge. And we decided to highlight this event because to this day, it's probably been our largest project. We worked with Dr. Alexander Retail Advisors. They gave us a space. It was a 17,000 square foot abandoned retail outlet that we converted into an art exhibition, which we did multiple programming over 8 days, 12,000 attendees, 24 artists, 15 musicians, 8 comedians, just, I could keep going, but I don't want to bore you guys with numbers. And this is a shot of the preview night in which we teamed up with iStrategy Labs, and this was actually the closing to their Digital Capital Week, and it also served as the preview for our opening. As you can see, you can't really see a lot of the art on the walls, but there are a lot of people there.
Gives an understanding of the size.
Another event that we really want to highlight was our most recent project, The Alley, and this was special to us because it was a real merger of that design build world and the event side of what we do. And normally that doesn't come together so organically, but in this case, we had a really awesome opportunity to showcase both sides of what our company does. So The Alley. The Alley was awesome. It was actually for a new apartment building on 9th and N, the Colonel, developed by Cass Riegler. And what was so special about this was they developed this apartment building on top of what was once Fight Club. And in order to understand what Fight Club was, you have to go back to DC circa 2002. I mean, this is Blagden Alley, Naylor Court. It was dangerous, it was gritty. I mean, there was just so much counterculture happening in this alley. And we actually have one of the co-founders of Fight Club here, Anthony Smallwood, sitting in the front. Legendary downhill DC skater, Nat Geo photographer. He founded this place, and it was essentially just an empty warehouse, which they built this massive indoor skate ramp, skate bowl. And they had, I mean, you name it, all the famous skaters that you can possibly name. Anytime they came by DC, they skated that bowl. They used to have punk rock shows in there. They had art exhibits. You know, even Photo Week did an exhibition in there that was curated by Anthony and Philippa Hughes back in 2008. So it was a really awesome, you know, place that kind of was something, you know, similar to what we did, but before our time. And Cass Riegler basically asked us and Anthony to kind of design the lobby and the landings and do a large-scale mural for the building, which kind of coincided with the design build side of it. But they also asked us to do a launch party for the building, which also coincides with the event side. So what Anthony and us did was we curated about a dozen artists that all had ties to Blagden Alley back in the day during the Fight Club years. And we came together and we used, I want to say 6 of the units in the building to do pop-up micro galleries. And we did this incredible launch event there. And it kind of paid homage to Fight Club and the history of Blagden Alley and Naylor Court. So it kind of really hit all the things that we're about, you know, like heritage, you know, DC culture, the events, and the design build. And that's Decoy right there. As you can see, we're really coordinated on the slides because we had so much time to rehearse this. Here's another picture of the rooftop. And this is a mural that we're currently still working on there that's located in the courtyard. It's an old, is it 50s or 60s?
The one on the left side is like a late 80s go-go poster. The one on the right is Fats Domino, the Clovers poster from like the 50s. So it was kind of like a cool way of kind of merging DC music culture, you know, in a kind of really interesting way. If anybody was around, you know, when posters were wrapped around poles, you wouldn't know what I'm talking about.
Okay, so, you know, what we want to transition into now is kind of like how we got here, what's our methodology, and why we do what we do. And in order to get into that, we have to talk about art bullshittery.
So I'll kick that off. But so, you know, I don't even have enough time to really actually completely explain art bullshittery. And I'm sure all of you have your own relative bullshitteries. But, you know, art's special. You know, art's got a special level of bullshittery. And it's really, you know, we're a company now, but I actually started off purely just as a fine broke artist, or just fine artist, broke artist. Let's do broke artist. You know, just as a, you know, the starving artist. And, you know, it's tough because you're, whether you like it or not, you know, whether you believe in the man or not, you're already your own entrepreneur. You know, you're the PR, you're the HR, you're the janitor, you're the fucking product. You know, you're everything. You know, and you know, it's really hard to kind of get ahead of all that, you know, and try to figure out, like, you know, where your place is. And, you know, all the while you're kind of dealing with, you know, a lot of stuff you're hearing about, like what you should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing. And a lot of that's just complete nonsense. And so I don't really have time to go through all of it, but I'll try to attempt to go through about 3 of these. So the romanticism of the starving artist. So this to me is a really, it's like it's a tough 2 set of words, and I don't know if you guys know any starving artists, if you are any starving artists, but you know, the thing about it is it's like it's not a place you actually even want to be, but society's really comfortable with you being there, and so it's dangerous as hell because, like, you know, if you took art, if you took things that you're comfortable hearing about the starving artist and you applied it really to any other industry, you know, there's no way, you know, some of those conclusions would even make sense, you know, as compared to something else. You know, like if you were, you know, there's no way that a plumber that's not doing well can kind of fall back on being, you know, the starving plumber. You know, the only one that's going to get any romance being a plumber is Mario. You know, if you're a starving yacht maker, you need to probably stop making yachts. You need to start making dinghies or smaller boats. But you guys are totally okay with the starving artist thing. And it's not your fault, it just kind of is what it is. We hear it, you don't even think about it. And if you're a starving artist, you know, especially an emerging artist, you don't really know right from wrong, left from right. You don't really know where you're supposed to be. You have no value. Or I'm sorry, you don't, your work has no value yet. You don't even know where to place it. Exposure. I'm gonna ask my man Peter, what is exposure?
It's something you die of in the wilderness.
Bam, exactly. Exposure is something you die of in the wilderness. You know, it's not really something you can actually trade somebody, and people do this crap all the time. And again, if you're an emerging artist, again, you have people around you who are, you know, oh, fuck it, do it for free, you know, like, put your stuff out there. And it's nothing wrong with really, you know, trying to be prolific and get your stuff out there, but, you know, it's weird. People try to offer you this kind of monopoly money all the time, and it's worth absolutely nothing. You know, it's kind of like, it's like, for the gift of exposure, I'm gonna offer you the possible hypothetical opportunity that someone might come to my place and hypothetically maybe buy your shit 10 years later. And actually that's not gonna happen. You know, to be totally honest, and I'm gonna go back to the one-to-one comparison. If you had your HVAC guy come into your house and you wanted to trade him for exposure, you know, that's what you're gonna get. You know what I mean? Like, trade for exposure is $0, it's 0 cents. It's written out to, you know, for exposure to X artist, and it's written, it's signed asshole. That's what you got. You know, so it's, you know, again, if you want to, you know, like the wedding planner, the piano man at your wedding, you want to trade him for exposure, I guarantee you're not gonna have a piano man. That's it. And I'm gonna try to break down some pseudo art math. So I'm already disclaiming that this is not real. It's real-ish. But you know, I'm gonna try to just kind of paint a picture for you, you know. And if you're I guess like a, you know, just a budding artist, you know, like what you're kind of dealing with, at least when it comes to galleries, is, you know, let's say a city about the size of DC has about 12 galleries. You got about 12 months in a year, so that's about 12 solo shows. So you have about 144 possible kind of opportunities to show. And, you know, of that, you know, you're dealing with every artist from every genre, every gender, you know, if a gallery is only accepting female artists, male artists, every experience level. And then on top of that, you're actually dealing with that exact same pool from really any other city that might be applying to any of the galleries in your city. In addition to that, you're dealing with any represented artists from any of those galleries that the gallery might have an agreement with. To show for that year. So your kind of opportunity level kind of drops, you know, exponentially, and you're dealing with kind of, you know, a couple thousand artists, you know, in any one city. And, you know, that, you know, when you kind of pile all that stuff up, you know, it becomes, you know, really tough to try to figure out like where you fit and how you can do what you do. And with some of our projects, you know, for example, like even the one that, you know, Peter mentioned earlier was Submerged, you know, we had, you know, over 12,000. The most recent one we had was 100% bread at the Wonder Bread Factory. That was over 6,000. And in order for you to really get that kind of attendance, and that was only a 2-day event, in order for you to get that kind of attendance, you would almost need to show at the exact same gallery for every month for like 3 years. You know, and that's just not gonna happen. And this isn't really to say, you know, fuck the galleries, but I am saying, you know, it's not too bad of an idea to kind of maybe try to figure out a different route, try to see what other things you can do. And so I'm actually going to go right from the bullshittery talk to kind of, you know, illustrate some of the collaborative projects. And so this is really interesting because this is actually the very, very first project we ever did. It actually predates No Case Collective by about 3 years, but I think like all the lessons learned from that are kind of directly related to I guess why we ended up going this route. And I guess I'll just show you real quick. It'd probably be easier to, you know, piece and actually cut it up and try to figure out how we can actually break that down into moves and create that piece.
Certain moves, like a knee spin, will create different swirls. Backspins, things like that, will create more of a cloudy pattern. That's what's hard to find, like steps or prints. We just choose the colors and we take it from there.
That's it.
So I heard some laughs in the front when that video was happening, and I think that was because that was about, what, 25? Was it 30? 25 or 30 pounds ago when Brandon and I did that project?
So yeah, there's actually one of the dancers here. I knew it was going to be here. That's pretty cool. But yeah, this was actually our very first project, and it's way easier explaining after showing you than trying to, you know, backpedal and explain this going up. But we actually created a project called The Document, and we actually made all the work using breakdancing specifically as the means to, you know, put paint on canvas. And it actually came about kind of weird. Like I was in school, I was about 21, and it was myself and a few other artists, and Peter was a breakdancer pretty much exclusively at the time. And some of his friends were actually, we were all just in the studio at the time, and there was a a book about performance art. And does anyone know Yves Klein? Artist? One guy? Okay, that guy. So pretty famous performance artist, but he did a piece in the 50s at the Guggenheim. And basically, it was pretty out there, but he was using naked women, dragging them by their hair, and using them like a paintbrush. And I kind of remember laughing uncontrollably, talking about how weird and ridiculous art is. And, you know, kind of like, it was weird, like it was like a light bulb moment at the exact same time where, you know, some of the guys were like, oh, we should do it with breakdancing. And it was like, no, we should actually really do that with breakdancing.
It was my idea.
Nope. Yeah, so you know, from there we actually, you know, we met back up at University of Maryland, just like in a studio overnight, semi-illegally, and you know, just started to practice. And I think the first time was just kind of slapstick. We were just seeing what we could do, and then you know, after that, it kind of just, you know, it evolved into a real project where we're starting to make actual 2D work. And it's really funny because like the evolution of this project is when we started doing the work and we showed people the finished pieces, they didn't believe that we did it from breakdance. They thought we just might have danced on a piece, but we kind of, you know, made it already. And then what's really interesting about that was, so we were like, all right, well, fuck it. So we started collaborating with photographers to actually document that we were doing the work. People still didn't believe we were doing the work. They thought we were actually staging the work, you know, do a freeze real quick, and that's how it is. So we started to collaborate with a videographer to document both the photographer and actually 2D work. So the name of the document actually came from just like all these 5 or 6 different redundant processes to just document the other person documenting the process. You know, so that was kind of, you know, that was really cool. But I think the coolest thing about showing you guys this project is A, really no one knows about it, and B, you know, even by today's standards, like, you know, we started this in 2006, and we haven't really done it in a few years, but like, even by today's standards, I look back and that project's like, still really cool, and you know, it's something we plan to bring back. But how this ties into bullshittery is that we had this, my first concept was actually this with these guys, and half the crew wasn't actually, they weren't artists. So even while I'm, you know, me, myself, and some of the fine artists are trying to figure out how to move the project, how to exhibit, the other half of the crew didn't actually even care, they just thought it was cool. You know, so we were, you know, off the break, we already had to figure out kind of unorthodox ways to try to figure out what we're going to do with it. And this is another slide. But so, you know, one of the things we actually did was we you know, made a checklist and decided, all right, well, we're going to go to every gallery in DC and just see what happens. And, you know, I guess it was a little less like pitching art, more like pushing your mixtape. But, you know, again, I was 21, I didn't really know how to exhibit. None of us knew really anything about anything, plus all the bullshittery from earlier. And, you know, literally what was happening was like, you know, knock, knock, you know, we present the project, no. And literally this kind of just went on, you know, and at the end of the day, you know, we're getting to the end of that list, and it's like, all right, no one's really feeling this project, and it's kind of, you know, it's cool because we got a concentrated dose of all that heartbreak really in that kind of, you know, 1 or 2 summers, you know, so it was a lot earlier on, you know, with us trying to tackle a much larger project than like maybe my specific type of work or his specific work. You know, we were all able to kind of get that heartbreak and then ask the next logical question when you get to the last gallery who's not really feeling your work, which is like, all right, fuck them, let's go to something else. You know, and so that's, I think that attitude or that ethos of DIY, try to figure out something, you know, some other way to get your project shown, your thing shown, that all was born out of the document. So I'm gonna actually fast forward a little bit. So this is a lot of bit. So this is a project we did in 2000, Peter's gonna tell me,
2013.
Yeah. So it's a project we did in 2000, I'm sorry, I actually gotta go back because I just forgot one piece. So we actually ended up getting the document in a place. We got it in the District of Columbia Art Center, and I think it's because the director was drinking, you know, wine at someone else's opening. He just kind of, you know, he caved in. But we actually ended up showing it in August of that year. We ended up making the Washington Post. So this is me going from, or this is all of us going from, you know, half the arts and crew are not even artists, and then the other half have never shown before, don't know how to exhibit, still didn't know how to exhibit even when we were showing. But we, you know, I think we killed the show, and you know, DCAC is an untraditional space because it's both a theater and a community center. And so after that, I think we just weren't even interested in starting back from the top to go the traditional, you know, art gallery route. We just already thought about our show as a bigger thing. And so we were just looking to do it really where, whatever, it could actually be the best project. And so now I'm gonna go back to this. But so this is much later. So this is actually in 2013. So just gotta give you guys a background. So in 2013 summer, District of Columbia Arts Center didn't get their art stabilization grant. And they were just really kind of interested in any ideas that could maybe, help pump a little money back into, what they're doing. And we weren't the answer, but we were just trying to figure out how we could help. And so one of the cool things we created was we created there's a website up right now. It's actually the 25project.com. If you can go to it, it's still up. And we actually created 25 days of pre-press before a show that acted as a fundraiser for DCAC. And basically we picked 25 artists that had worked with DCAC, and they were celebrating their 25th year. And so everything was based on the multiple of 25. So it was 25 artists, 25 thumbnails. Every day was a countdown, from 25 down to 1. And as soon as you clicked on the thumbnail, you would get to a series of questions. And it was 25 questions to all those artists. And when you guys checked in, you guys actually answered a question, which is said, what was the question? What was the last thing you lied about? I can tell you guys are already lying in your heads right now. You're lying about something. But it was really interesting because we asked a series of really, really serious questions and then really completely ridiculous questions. But it was really cool because we got this kind of myriad of, the serious questions being answered very simplistically and some of the, ridiculous questions being answered super serious. And so this is actually Matt Ciso. And so this is kind of what it looked like. The questionnaire. And if you guys go to the website, still, like I said, you guys can learn a lot about a lot of really interesting artists. Some of which are actually in here right now. And yeah, I like the one at the bottom. Says, I don't know if you guys can read. It says, "What is your best fail?" And he answered, "Taking a drink of turpentine instead of my wine." That's an art studio problem. If you guys work in a studio. And in the top left corner it says RoboCop, Kanye West, or Carrie Bradshaw, and he answered RoboCop. There was not really a question, it was just a series of words. So yeah, I mean, if I had to kind of like wrap up why we kind of chose the two projects, is because again from the very beginning it was us not really knowing what to do. And it was a lot easier not to go home and lick my wounds, but it was a lot more easier just to kind of go to the team, look back and say, all right, cool, they're saying no, cool, we're gonna go to the next thing. And then it was really interesting to kind of fast forward 7 years later, and after we're a lot more organized, we do events, we kind of understand our value, understand our market, understand how you can get people really fucking excited about art, and to be able to I don't want to say the word give back, because I don't even think we deserve that. I'm not even in a position to say that we did anything nearly as close to what DCAC's done for DC and DCR. But it was really cool to have a visual reminder of like how we can all kind of fucking contribute. A lot of artists that are working together, all killing it at the exact same time. And so I'm gonna go to my last slide, which is everybody can eat. Everyone can be happy.
That's kind of like our underlying company mantra. Does anybody know who this character is or where this reference comes from? Raise your hand. One person. 2 people. 3 people. All right, this is my man Ace Boogie from the movie Paid in Full. He's a budding street entrepreneur in the movie, and his whole quote in this is, "Everybody eats, everybody can be happy," which really boils down to, if everyone works together, everyone can benefit. And that's kind of like our mentality when we go into any project that we do. We either try to collaborate with artists to create something, or we try to work with different organizations, artists, etc., to create an experiential event that people can come to and take away something from.
Only thing is we cheated. We've been doing it from the start. Damn.
And that's our talk, guys. Thanks for coming out. We were actually afraid that we were gonna mess this talk up really bad, and you guys were gonna cheer for us at the end. But I think we're gonna still go with Plan A and throw out T-shirts to you guys. Just keep clapping and making noise.
You gotta give it up for PCR. Girls like a girl. I love that.
Thank you, everybody.